in chat watching with y'all.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Jen. It's great to chat to you. Now, Mitch, Matt, please take it away.
Thank you. Yeah, good to hang out with you, Jen,
Yeah.
as well. Catch you on the other side. We got bodied, Matt. We got absolutely dumped on. I think she got 4. We got 2 each, mate.
Yeah, I mean, that's tough. I mean, all of those could have been real. All of them could have been fake. I mean, you know...
I'm just the bull you wave the red cape in front of. Like, I'm going to assume like that people could say anything. And that's why the game, I think, is so cleverly designed. It's tough. Anyway, Space Station Avidity going head-to-head here. Lijiang Tower will be our first map of the series. And yeah, SSG, of course, you know, a pretty comfortable win against that Amplified team with a slight stumble in Suravasa. But outside of that, I mean, they were dominant. It was really one-sided series. Avidity, though, a team that we expect to, I think, lead the charge of the, you know, the mid to bottom sort of table rosters here. I do think that
what does that mean? Lead the charge of the mid. What does that mean? Like,
so you know how you've got a bike race, right? And you've got like the peloton, you know, the main group of cyclists, and there's like maybe the top 5 that are, you know, a bit further out in front. I think Avidity lead the peloton, Matthew.
Okay. Sure, yeah, I don't really think anybody has any clue what the hell you're trying to say there, but
where my cyclists at?
What? I mean,
where they at?
Definitely not me. I ain't no cyclist. I really love watching Sugar Free and Seeker play. Such a fun DPS combo. And when they're right, Mitch, and like they're gonna be difficult, I think, for anybody to deal with. Not just in NA. I think globally it's gonna be really tough. And this is one of the first times in NA we're actually gonna see both teams end up playing the sim.
Yeah, it looks like Unter has prescribed 150 cc's of Korean comp a day for this team, and they have picked this style up pretty much straight away. Space Station with control of the point here. Bear in mind, Sugar Free out of the picture here as Wob was able to pick them up. I am very curious to see these comps, road tested now, but it's the Ramatra versus Mauga point of difference that I feel like gives Avidity the edge.
A little bit, you would think, right? But the Mauga is a huge target, though, to be able to kind of charge up the beams of the sim on. It's going to be the point first going to Space Station, but now it's flipped in terms of Avidity. But Avidity going to be tough to make it back in towards the point, right? You're going to have Kellen still here alive. They're doing a nice job keeping him up. And we're going to have Mauga back in the action, so the fight continues.
Yeah, I mean, again, but it was a flip for Space Station, flipping back, So Mauga is here, but Avidity can't use Pella's bulk to further stall the point. Good backtrack there by CJ. Orbital Ray now thrown down, and he has to play from within it, but still there's too much damage for the Mauga. And a sound barrier here for Avidity. They do layer their support ultimates, right? That is a minus, perhaps, but they do a good job picking Space Station off within the Ray itself.
But that's the biggest thing for me, right? I mean, Nenwa is so far ahead in terms of the sound barrier compared to Bliss, right? As you already had double support ult there for Avidity. I think in their type of situation, right? Hey, we got to win a fight. We'll end up taking the lead. We'll figure it out later. Is Bliss still pretty far away from that beat?
Okay, we're going to have walls for both sides here. Been a little while since we've seen this level of confidence. How about this? We've got our slicer straight down the middle of the map here. Kellen has an annihilation. He'll need to be wary, though, of this molten core, and he's using the mobility right now of Nemesis form to avoid it.
Nice boob.
Bliss sends Wab just careening over the edge of the map. And it basically means the annihilation may not even have been required. Very efficient way to win the fight here for Space Station. They hold on to this beat for the next one.
Massive, right? You can start to snowball these fights in your favor if you're SSG. You'll be able to play quite aggressively here behind this beat, right? You can play with that beat. Oh, it's going to be a TP straight across the map. Oh man.
2-for-1 on DPS. That is sickening.
Man, look, it's pretty telegraphed, right? When you're going through that TP, maybe you could have like dropped a little bit of a fake out, but no, they full on commit on through that teleporter, and Bliss is right there to meet him.
Well, let us pick ourselves up and go again. That is about 10 to 15% for free for Space Station. Bliss already had ultimate, so unfortunately doesn't get the free charge off that double bloop, and then the kill on the Mauga. Here's the cage fight, dives on in. Bliss sets it up perfectly now, so Kellen isn't blown up instantly. And of course, Sugar Free, that's the
oh, that is
holy, this guy moves quickly. That is dirty.
Yeah, maybe they're onto something here. He just flies on in. His torp is not supposed to be that quick. I mean, those little legs can't be moving that fast. Hella now will go over to the Doom here. I also think, Mitch, like the Molten Core, right? While inside of the cage fight, even though it's the cage fight that comes in from Pella, right? You're stuck inside there with the sound barrier on the opposing team and the Molten Core. It's not really an awesome situation to be in.
No, exactly. You had the advantage of, you know, playing in a localized area turned against you by that Molten Core. And I'm pretty sure we just saw what happens when you actually stack the speed boost, right, between Lucio and Juno. And when Torb in Overload has that amount of speed,
man,
I mean, there's nothing you can do.
Yeah, fast. I mean, going out of nowhere, just and he's such a difficult target to hit. Right, the turret just being annoying, putting down some chip damage, and then that right-click shotgun blast is just nasty. So you see why people going over towards that Torb. SSG. They win that first round. Potentially some changes here. CJ looks to be hovering over the BAP, which the BAP is pretty good on this point, right? I know pretty close quarter can use that immortality field to great effect.
All right, over to Control Center we go. And we will stay with our Sim and Torbjorn setups. Again, it will be Ramatra and Malka point of difference. And CJ's opted to go over to the Baptiste this time around. Pella just crumbles to the front line. Clearly, Sugar Free's getting plenty of value, and Seeker was charged up, ready to burn that tank down. And Avidity instantly.
You can also play way more aggressive, right, with that immortality field. You're trading damage. The one thing with the Sim, right, is pretty glass cannon. Sim can just get deleted really fast. But playing inside that immortality field, you can play pretty aggressive, which ends up hurting the Maga significantly, right, because that allows the Sim to just ramp even harder.
Up to 10% here at Space Station. A very, very clean start to that fight. If Pella doesn't feel confident enough going in like that with the shoulder charge, then Avidity are not going to be able to make this Malga comp work. So, run it back again here, and mostly Kellen gets ignored here by Space Station Gaming. They've dove into the backline. Wab on the signature Reaper pick here. And this is how you want to play around the Ramatra, it seems, Matt. Basically, just bypass him.
Just circumvent him, right? A lot like how you would play around Sigma with that static shield. As Seeker gets quite low there, they know they have to deal with that target fast because that Sim damage starts to spiral.
Yeah. Stall here, though, for Space Station got them up to 40%. So they are taking a junk fight in that previous engagement. But Kellen needs to find a way to stay relevant, whether or not he is in Nemesis form. That is the tricky part. Always going to be a challenge for a Ramatra player here more than ever. Wub very low, and I don't think he has Wraithwalk available, but had to stay safe, maybe even TPing back to the rest of his team. So there's no backline pressure right now with the Reaper out of the fight. Sound Barrier is going to be employed here in response to this orbital ray. And NY doesn't see the need to throw a beat in there with Avidity losing this fight.
One of the rare instances you're going to hear, it can really just kind of anybody say this, but it feels like this comp with the Torb is just better than the Reaper, right? Torbjorn seems to be way more impactful than the Reaper in this type of situation, especially the Reaper a little bit slower in, doesn't have any long distance damage, but then the Torb also seems to provide some nice burst up close.
There's that Molten Core, Zomba having to move very quickly out of the way with those teleporters. So Sugar Free gets the core down, but Avidity able to avoid it by the most part. Here's that sound barrier that NY held onto, and Seeker got hit by the charge by the looks of things. Avidity here really trying to tailor this composition to punish the weaknesses of the Space Station setup, and that's an annihilation. It goes for very little. The Space Station may want to consider a change.
No, that's awesome for Avidity, right? Being able to get that annihilation out. There's no sound barrier on the other side. Seeker actually plays Reaper, potentially. Nope, looks like gonna go back to the Sim. So deciding to stay with that Sim, potentially looking at swapping out the Sim for the Reaper, which is quite interesting of a setup. But even though the teleporter comes in from Zomba, it's Sugar Free in response to the Molten Core right on top of it. They back up, and the sound barrier is massive. As you see Wub actually getting in the back line.
Okay, cage fight. Death Blossom, pretty potent combination. Bliss and CJ were seen loitering by the edges of that cage fight, and they were swept up in the chaos that ensued. Wub here can always get out. Wraithwalk was available should it be needed. It wasn't. And now Avidity can start to get this capture progress up to parity.
Seeker gets 2 here towards the end, so I wonder if you're able to get back and take another fight here if you're SSG. You're going to be coming up on an Amp Matrix to use here as well. Not a lot of great targets to kind of shoot through it. Really just looking at that BAP and the tool.
Wow. He's going to pop it straight away. That's an Amp Matrix that gets so little value as Pella just dove straight through it. Can you bounce back as Space Station? You do have a sound barrier you've developed midway through this fight, but you've just lost Kellen. You've got no choice but to go for it here. Space Station might end up with a map pick that doesn't suit their comp nearly as well. I think the Reaper's been a big issue for them, but they're going to go for it here anyway, Matt. They do not have their Ramatra. Kellen gets back into the fight and will have Annihilation available, but Bliss is going to get hunted down. Here's the barrier for Seeker. Play from behind this. He wants to try and clear some of these sim turrets and look for a longer fight. Kellen wants to make use of that Annihilation very soon. Zomba's already been taken down. There is a chance for Space Station now. Molten Core for Sugar Free was popped off in that previous little engagement. And here's the Annihilation. Nenwai, though, has the answer. Sound Barrier comes out for Avidity, still with 4 players to work with. They are holding strong. Space Station lose CJ, the Immortality field they deployed. And it's a scary moment for them. They did flip the point back.
Oh, they're going to lose.
Can they catch Pella out?
Oh, I mean, Pella needs to stay alive. Looks like they're going to be able to. Is Seeker actually able to just use that sim wall that comes in from Zomba to ramp up his damage? But look at this, Avidity coming back in. Going to be able to have Wub on the point here. He's going to get a flip Death Blossom to work with as well.
That's going to end it, surely. Sugar Free there had nowhere to go as the Reaper drops the ultimate on top of him. CJ returned to the fight. Got an Immortality field down, but Wub found a very important pick there. And it took too long for Space Station to chase Pella down. So we should be headed to a third round here on Lijiang Tower. The Reaper Malga composition for Avidity gets him another.
Yeah, just inside those close quarters, especially with that Death Blossom inside the cage fight. Definitely was impactful there from Avidity as we move to the final round here on Lijiang Tower. Do we see... I think for SSG, I think you continue to play this with the Torb and the Sim. I think specifically it's probably more of the points, you know, in terms of the objective and where you're kind of going in terms of control point that was more impactful there than the comp.
Yeah, we might even see, despite that, a tweak here for Space Station. Seen a couple of teams already today. I mean, M5, very much the same. Feel like Malga is the way to go. Space Station, flexible enough to make that switch now coming into this next round. Feel like they give themselves a bit more of an even matchup at the front line. We have Mirrored Sim TPs, and oh, buddy, it's a mess already. Nenwai and Seeker both fall. Zomba can really only play from the edges of this point. But with Sugar Free out of the picture, Space Station are down their DPS.
Oh, at the start of the game, we see both TPs go towards the high ground. You knew the fight was going to kick off fast. Now the point is going to unlock SSG. You're going to be able to get everybody back here. So maybe another contest. We'll see. It's going to be Avidity who gets control of the point first. But SSG not out of it just yet, Mitch. And actually, they have Seeker go over and play the Sojourn here. So you're going to drop that Sim for a little bit more long-range damage.
Okay. In theory, this means Space Station have no interest in wrapping the point and probably just knocking on the front door every fight. Seeker needs to be able to get a lot of pressure on Pella's direction, and it looks like that's worked, at least enough for Sugar Free to finish that off. There's no backline pressure with this comp in terms of flankers, but Space Station have the advantage in front-loaded damage off the rip, like just add water, and they've got the Sojourn hitting rails at the start of a fight, as opposed to needing the Sim to charge up.
It feels like for Avidity, when you see the Sojourn on the other side in the swap, you need to use like the Sim TP, you need to get aggressive, you need to go on in, because the more space SSG has with that Sojourn and being able to play behind it, that's how they're going to win, right? By allowing them to just kind of like, you know, sit on the point, SSG is able to just get a huge advantage there. So if you're Avidity, you need to kind of figure out where the Sojourn's playing from and charge it down.
24% and counting. How do Avidity deal with Seeker's position? Wub's turret is naturally going to be destroyed here, as this is not a position where Torb is strong, trying to push in the front door. Here's an orbital raid though, so Kellen just turns his back on 4 members of Avidity. And he can! The healing is enough that the Malga can deal with the threat of his opposite number. And Pella dove on in there. Unfortunately, just makes a very swift and ignoble exit from the fight.
That is a fight full of chaos, right? The fight kicks off. You get both orbital arrays, both sound barriers for both teams. As Zomba now going to move off of the Sim and match this Sojourn. Yeah, they're going to match it on the Sojourn here. Seems to be pretty strong. Pella takes this off angle, Mitch. Kind of pushes them back to the points. It gives them a little bit of space. But, I mean, I was going to say that. I thought that was going to be a shot. It's actually the turret that gets thrown out right in front of Sugar Free.
I mean, it's a massive bodies. Could have been anything at that point. Zomba normally the Tracer Genji player on this team, Matt. So this is fun. Are they taunting Seeker with this Valiant skin? We'll never know. Bliss gets brought down. Pella almost got snarled up inside that Molten Core and eventually is chased down by Keller. This is a close one now. Space Station did lose control of the point, and CJ probably would have had the better of Scuffed had Zomba not intervened. 2 quick railgun kills at the end of the fight make it 3. Zomba gets Avidity over the line.
Avidity seems to be winning these fights, Mitch, when they actually are the team that is aggressive and kind of setting the pace, right? When they're playing a little bit slower and letting SSG just kind of like work their neutral game, that's where it seems to be losing, right? You want to see Avidity take these fights. They've been pretty successful. They take them in that head-to-head, and they get quite aggressive as they'll be in control of the point. Disruptor shot towards the back here from Seeker, trying to allow Kellen to move on in.
Winching forward now. Then the Space Station comp doesn't have the ability to wrap around and be flankers necessarily. It's just too dangerous. Should you run into the Torb? Okay, well, this orbital rate comes a little bit late in the day to save Kellen's life. Space Station, though, use it to flip. They do create enough of a lethal zone, but Avidity come back in with their own, and Nenwai's going to have a beat for the next fight. So this is a very good result for Avidity. A chance, honestly, even to take the first map here. I can't believe I'm saying it.
Yeah, absolutely. Avidity was actually playing off of the point there. They're just kind of keeping it contested because Scuffed was working his way up towards that orbital ray. Finally gets it towards the end, but it's going to be Bliss and Seeker with a kill apiece here as SSG trying to make a play.
Nenwai no beat. Is there an Ajax in the mix? It's unclear. No, I think they got it off. I'm not sure what went down in those last couple of moments, but either way, it was Seeker that just emerged with a massive kill. Kellen, I think, found one as well. And now Avidity don't have those support ultimates to lean on. They've got a Molten Core, which is horrendous when they're trying to approach the point from a long distance. Space Station have a beat. They also have a cage fight coming up very, very soon, and Nenwai could barely touch. It's the best they can do. One divests himself of that load over on towards the point here, but Sugar Free has one of his own, and Zomba gets caught in it. The floor is literally lava, folks. And Wob is blasting off again. That's a Space Station Gaming map 1.
A really competitive map number 1, though, right? Avidity takes SSG to the end. Really, that sound barrier from Nenwai towards the later end of the game probably is what ends up deciding it. But both these teams come out, they play these Sim and Torb setups, they move over to some Sojourn, the Torb still stays in. And these are just all-out brawls. I mean, just tons of chaos in these fights.
It wasn't an Ajax, right? I'm seeing ghosts. Nenwai was able to beat, right?
Well, we'll have to get a replay on it. I actually thought they were, from my perspective, I thought they were going to actually save the beat because they had already lost the player before that, but they ended up going for it.
So the lay of the map was pretty interesting. Both teams came out with the Symmetra Torbjorn compositions. It was on Control Center, though, that we saw there's a switch up from Avidity. I think they're really trying to just overload Kellen in that front line. Not only is Malga probably pretty favored, I think, when he's able to deal with Ramatra. A lot of the time they're just breezing past Ramatra and ignoring him, but the Reaper getting added to the mix for Wub there means it's really hard for Kellen to get the healing he needs. He can't create the space he wants to because at every avenue there's someone who is kind of very dangerous for him to fight in, God, even in Nemesis form. So that definitely seemed to be a big hitching point here for Space Station, and I thought they were going to lose that third round as well, but honestly, Seeker's Heroics just comes in and gives us one of those moments. Big railgun kill, and all of a sudden, we are headed to a map 2.
Right down to the wire towards the end, right? It is really one fight that kind of decides this map as we take a look at some of the highlights. This is where Avidity kind of comes back. I think this point especially is really set up well for the Reaper because they didn't even bring it out here towards the end. So let's see. This is where the beat would have came in, right?
It was the next fight.
Gonna get, so let's.
Oh, we're gonna get it. Here. I love that. Thank you very much.
Oh, double dink there from Seeker.
That is rough. That is so. They would have. I mean, you've got to hand it to SSG. They are losing that round, I think. If there's a beat that comes off there, I don't know, or it gets close either way. Man. Okay, this game's delivering. Quite a close first map. Something we were hoping for, because on the docket, in theory, there's Nightmare, SSG, TL are all playing against teams from the middle of the pack. So we're worried about one-sided games. I think I always want to see something competitive. This was great. This was definitely that. That was the control map, though. The question for Avidity, we've also seen Wrecking Ball and Kiriko bands already used on that first map here. So the question for Avidity is, okay, where do we find an edge? Because if these two teams both independently decided they want to play these comps, these sort of Korean style compositions, then there might not be an edge. if that's how Avidity spent their time preparing, and they're forcing themselves into mirrors against a team that just seems to have their number.
But
that's
could you ban
grim sign.
Could you ban the Sojourn for Avidity, right? Ban the Sojourn and force them to play like Reaper Sim with the Torp. I think that could be like an opportunity.
At first, I was like, oh, Zomba's playing the Sojourn. That's odd. Normally it's WUB. And then they did really well. So, I mean, you could, but I don't necessarily know if Avidity feel disadvantaged in the Sojourn matchup.
I don't think you feel like you're disadvantaged, but I think maybe you feel like it's a little bit more impactful to get it out of the game on the other side, right? You get rid of the Sojourn. Like, sure, it limits you a little bit, right? But you feel like potentially it hurts Seeker and SSG a little bit more.
Maybe. I mean, Seeker would play Cass against Torbjorn and Sim, which feels fine. No?
I mean, I just think you get run down.
Yeah, I guess the Malga comp, you probably just get stomped.
Malga feasts on like a Cassie,
DPS,
right?
Yeah, the DPS matchup is pretty reasonable, but again, I just don't think you can handle a comp that closes the gap on you so effectively. And you wouldn't want to. Yeah, we saw the same happen to the Baptiste there. We saw the SSG Baptiste just.
So Flashpoint is the map Suravasa. It is the one here for map number 2. Seems to always be the go-to here in NA.
The NA Flashpoint map, yeah.
Dude, and we talked a little bit about hero bans with like Lemon, but you also get such a crazy advantage, right, with the map selection in the first like ban, so to speak. So like you can really tilt these games in your favor. I mean, when you lose these series and lose them like 3-0, 3-1, I mean, you have most certainly lost because you're trying to get every advantage you can and still not able to come out on top.
Right, we talked about that in the previous game. You know, like if you're going to win a series against an opponent, you need to play on their maps. You know, you need to win on their maps twice. So that's, you know, something you've always got to be mindful of. So this for Avidity, yeah, with the Kiriko already, when I see a Kiriko ban, I just think, oh, they want to, you know, that team wants to dive. They want to deny the cleanse against like the Ana setup. I don't know if that was the case on that map. I don't know really how much the ban was meant. I don't know about where you stand on this. I don't think we're going to get Torb and Sim bans necessarily because like,
but we
can still have one of them.
We saw him a little bit yesterday. We saw some Sim bans yesterday. Sim just seems to be an enabler of all different types of comps with the TP. We don't see any Torb bans really.
Yeah, Sim's more important, I feel, for sure.
Okay, so they banned the Cassidy, which you talked about, right? Maybe, but if you're gonna play Malga, why are you really scared of the Cass on the other side?
I don't think is this a protection ban? I guess it might be
Potentially
like, we don't want to play Cass anyway. On the off chance that Seeker tries to play, are they trying to play Sombra?
But I feel like this is way better though for SSG, right? Like you get rid of Malga, like clearly like Ellen really didn't want to play Malga. They played Malga the entire time. Gives you an opportunity. What now? Avidity has to match, whether it be like Ramatra, they have to match like a Risa based stuff, right?
It could be a ball comp that they would like to play as well. I mean, SSG, if they have scrimmed this team or have any tape, they did ban the ball against Avidity in that first map. But I don't know if I mean, this is Unta's team. So like, how seriously do you want to take SSG's pick and ban strategy? I'm not sure. You know, I don't necessarily know if he's more of a, I think he's maybe more big picture than that, but
yeah, we talked about yesterday. NA is it's a lot of, it's the vibe region, you know.
Yes.
Like what are you feeling today? Shout out the vibe region, so he said.
Honestly, that's the region I want to be in. I'm gonna be straight up with you. And we've done this for 8 years now.
I mean, the shirt you're wearing has lots of vibes, and that, like, you know, that kind of cool. I was gonna ask you about your necklace, what you're rocking. I was like, is that like a Machine Gun Kelly has that like necklace with like a vial of blood on it? Is that like a, you know, something like that?
No, it's oh god, I want to.
You've been on a little bit of an emo kick lately.
It's got cyanide in there in case we get a goat's medal. No, it's got my kids' names on it.
Oh, okay, you know? That's cool.
Yeah.
Now
it's my first Father's Day present, you know.
Yeah, I feel. Is my name on as well?
I mean, no, there's space for it to be engraved though. So if you give me any reason to think of you as anything less than my annoying colleague, we can actually maybe make that happen. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've been the only one willing to work with you for a while now, so I mean, I feel like.
Okay. Yeah, you've had the privilege. You've been lucky, bro. Oh, that's you know. One day on your deathbed, on your final breath, you're like, yeah, you know what? That Mitch Graves actually pretty cool. You know what I mean, it was alright. It was alright. Here's a wrecking ball matchup. So that's why we get the ban of the Cassidy, as it turns out. But both teams are actually happy to play this style.
Yeah, but both teams are fine playing ball. I mean, now, dude, we said it last week at the end of NA. We were like, I think there's going to be some more ball comps, you know, coming into this week. I did not expect it to be in combination with Torb and Sim.
Yes.
So the Cassidy is actually a really smart ban against the ball, right?
It is. It is if you're not trying to play the ball comp yourself. Avidity might not be aware that Space Station were happy to pick this style up, but they do know, like, everybody who's followed Overwatch for the last 5 years knows that Kellen plays a ton of Wrecking Ball. Guy won a Contenders Championship on it with Runaway. So the guy's the real deal. I'm pretty sure I'm not misremembering that. So yeah, the guy's pretty legit player. Winston Ball definitely has that in his pool. Space Station here, kind of chilling. They've managed to get up to already 45% after that first pick in that engagement, and Pella eventually goes down. And I think against Sim Torb, and if your Wrecking Ball dies, that's probably something that just shouldn't be happening.
It's a lot for the ball to deal with, right? You can kind of leave turrets maybe by your Ana, your back line, and then also have whether it be the Torb turret or the Sim turret back there, just be a nuisance towards that ball. And I'm curious what your thoughts are. It's going to be a Zomba wall here. It's going to be scuffed as well using the rush. Dude, this is a nanoed Sim though inside of it.
That is one of the things about playing Ana in this comp. She is the odd one out. Okay, hold on. Oh my goodness. All right, nice minefield connection. Scuffed actually goes down here. Space Station have no reason to vacate the point. They might just take it here. Pella will be hard to kill. They've got a minefield of their own, which Kellen can destroy before they arm.
Kellen is a menace. It's just an absolute menace on the map right now.
Literal minesweeper, this guy.
What's your thoughts though on the Ana versus the Kiri? I think the Ana is actually pretty sweet in this comp, right? Can obviously can't protect herself as well as the Kiriko, but whether it be the bio grenades or the use of the nano, right, to keep the Sim alive and be a little bit more of a stalwart on the point, I kind of like it.
In this setup as well, the ball doesn't have as much backline kill pressure as he does with a Sojourn comp where you pop someone up and Sojourn just rails them and it's a free kill. Pella can obviously kill an Ana, Ball can kill Ana one-on-one, but the idea is that Bliss and CJ are going to work together to keep CJ alive, so you're not that vulnerable to the Wrecking Ball's dives, I feel. And maybe you can just have a huge impact on the fight. I think the anti-heal in certain windows is really powerful here. Nanoing Seeker, less so. I guess you give that durability to a Sim who's playing out in the open. There's the beat though for Bliss, just thrown down in the corner. Oh geez, CJ living dangerously, man. Oh yeah, okay. Scuff goes down though. That will be the Ana out of the picture. So Ana traded for Kiriko here. Neither team with the flip just yet as Wub is taking the time to catch Bliss there just as they're on the move. Wub is healthy enough to bring down Sugar Free, who was corralled in his direction by Pella.
Man, if they had another support alive though for SSG, I bet they would have tried to fight that because Kellen had the minefield. He would have been able to just kind of drop that over the point, and we saw how destructive it was on our first flash point. But Avidity with some nice play there in the backline from Nenway, able to take this point first. Another thing with these comps, they're so fast. These fights just kind of chain into one another. I mean, there is no downtime.
All right, here's that minefield deployed by Kellen. Pella here, you can see a little bit low now to some of that pressure. The Torbjorn right clicks, I think, when he's overloaded are very scary. Nenway living dangerously. Got topped up there, Brinton by Scuff there, who immediately lets that Kitsune rush go. But Pella burned down. Seeker and maximum charge there is able to burst the Wrecking Ball out of the game. But all the while, Avidity have been accruing that capture percentage.
Yeah, you're going to get up to about 80% on the points here. Is this going to be a sim wall in response from Seeker too? So they want to continue to end up fighting this. Does SSG? So you do get rid of Zomba. That's a lot of damage as this continues to go.
This flip will come in eventually, but this comp is very hard to shift off the point in general. There's so many very sticky elements to this setup, and I'm not just talking about a molten core. Very, very hard to push them on out of the way. Here's minefield for Pella. Also being pile driven up, Kellen has less opportunity to clear those mines before they arm. Oh, that would be nice. Yes, finding a sink here. Zomba very, very low. They've got to be able to chase this down. Pile driver pops them up and they get devoured. That's a molten core over on the point there, let go by Wub. But the cavalry is back here for Space Station to try and flip the point.
Yeah, they just want to make it really difficult, right, with Avidity at 99 to be able to stay on the point and keep it going. But Sugar Free all as well drops that molten core. So it was the minefield used early on by Pella, and then Wub uses the molten core, just trying to dissuade Space Station Gaming from actually being on the point. So not able to do so. SSG take it back, and dude, they take it back. Oh, that's brutal. That's a pile drive with the biotic grenade there from CJ. Man, this is going to be a situation here where the SSG might be able to steal the second point.
Yeah. And they were behind 0-99. I just want to remind everybody how long it took for them to get Avidity off the point and flip it. But that's how it is. They now themselves very sticky with some survivability ultimate. 2 of them, in fact, and of course a minefield. All right, CJ, out of the way here, trying to play from a safe distance. A sound barrier comes in from both sides. And then White has to commit it here to give his team a chance of having a real opportunity to flip. We're at that 99 now as this overtime is ticking down and Zomba eventually falls. CJ has not had to part with this nano and can save it to try and have a good fight on this next flashpoint. Bliss the only casualty, man, and Space Station, that's heartbreaking for Avidity. They go from 0 to 100.
The minefield from Kellen gets like immense value, right? Just kind of covering the point. No way they could move on to it for Avidity. Like you mentioned, CJ ends up holding on to this nano, right? You can nano Seeker here coming up next into this next flashpoint as Kellen getting a top-down POV here. Is Zomba's gonna play Tracer, where we saw a lot of Tracer last week, Mitch, but not as much this week, especially obviously with Torb and Sim around. So curious how Zomba tries to play into this. It's gonna be quite tough.
Zomba, fantastic Tracer play so far here in stage 1. And obviously Torb is a problem, but only in some scenarios. If Zomba doesn't obsess about flank angles all the time, then they can just do their thing as Tracer often does. Just don't get too close to the Torb and you'll be fine. Minefield there for Pella. So Avidity, again, start well. They paved the way here by getting this flashpoint first, and they obviously want to stall this out for as long as humanly possible, but this is an awkward fight for them. Space Station are just scrapping for it, and both supports for Avidity are gone.
And you end up using the rush here, right? So now if SSG can come in and fight this, you're in a world of trouble here if you're Avidity. It's going to be a flip here from SSGs. You still have Kellen alive. Kellen is on a mission, man. I mean, every time we're seeing him through the X-ray or on board with him, just putting so much pressure onto Avidity.
And again, I mean, it was talked about a lot. A lot of teams wanted Kellen, a player that was looking to and was happy to stay in NA when, as many South Korean players were headed back home into the partnership era. You can see how sick they've been. I mean, they have so much experience at this point. They've been around for a long time. Pella slept here briefly. They were hoping to do away with Sugar Free, but they still pop the Molten Core and go for it. And then Y has been able to prune CJ from the rest of this SSG lineup. The Space Station might be more invested in stalling things out for as long as humanly possible. The glowing mass on the point would indicate that as well. Kellen's out of there. He will try and escape. Zomba's been a bit of a nuisance on this Tracer as they turn around and whip one on Bliss.
That was a must-win fight, though, for Avidity. I mean, it feels like they kind of threw everything at it there, and Kellen somehow still able to make it out. So Seeker actually goes away from Sim and will play the Sojourn. So also a little bit easier, right, to deal with this Tracer, potentially. And maybe you're not as worried, right, getting kind of dove on when there's no, like, Sim, the kind of TP players in the mix, like a crazy mobility is. Kellen will actually use the minefield here, so potentially using this on the point to try and open things up.
Oy, okay, has to be a defensive bionade there for CJ. A little bit low. Wanted to put a banana for this fight. This is looking like an Avidity flashpoint. I hope I'm not sort of jinxing anything. After Bliss commits a sound barrier and Space Station Gaming still gets swept away. One last fight here and Avidity will be in good shape.
Yeah, I mean, Bliss. There's no beat now able to be used here moving forward as CJ does have... Yeah, the nano is... no, you're going to get a touch, it looks like. Looks like potentially Sugar For You gets the touch. Yeah, Kellen's going to come on back in, so they still want to fight.
Yeah, that shield, though, expired, and who's out sat on the point, but Seeker just standing there. Sugar Free on Tracer now, got nano boosted. It's clear that the healers aren't in position to get Kellen back. I mean, CJ and Bliss Bliss got staggered. CJ has to walk slowly back to the point here, so Avidity have done enough, at least, to keep their head above the surging tides on Suravasa.
CJ battle in there ends up taking out the Tracer. So Avidity, they end up getting a flashpoint. So this one, dude, a lot of the flashpoints, whether it be like teams that are 0-3 or maybe near the bottom of the standings against even our top teams, like these flashpoints seem to be really close regardless of the team's the record. It just seems like you can snowball pretty fast in these game modes, right? And like the rotations definitely play a huge part of it. Is Kellen going up top, seeing where everybody's coming from, trying to get a launching spot. Man, that is a crazy angle that him and Bliss just collapse onto Wub from.
That's an insane link up, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, from Wub's POV out of nowhere, the entirety of the Justice League just happens upon him. That's sick. All right, Scuffed trying to climb out of harm's reach. Space Station, of course, more than happy to pursue to the ends of the earth here if it means starting in control of this flashpoint, which they will do.
They make a change here, so they actually ditch the Ana like in the previous fight, right? Like after that point, and then they move CJ over and play the Kiri. So, I mean, just the capabilities now offensively, right? Like the Ana was actually doing pretty well, I thought, for SSG, but now the ability for CJ to like TP and go in with Kellen and Bliss and be a little bit more of an offensive force. You see it. I mean, they're able to kind of capitalize on all these Kellen pile drives from different angles.
I've got to acknowledge how based Kellen is for this Among throwback with the Chengdu Hunters Wrecking Ball skin. One of the most electrifying Hammond players to take to the stage. He's that Kitsune Rush, and Zomba uses it to propel him forward. Tip of the spear as Bliss is the first impacted by it. This leaves Avidity now in a position to continue to capture. They've already flipped the point, so Space Station are not incentivized to fight any further, and they'll hold on to their Kitsune Rush.
Yeah, Kellen actually was going to go minefield over on the point, and it was either Pella or Nenway who actually booped him back. So you see like the mines there from Kellen don't even actually go on the point. They almost actually just end up where his kind of back line is sitting on the opposite side. So quite big. That minefield could have been just annoying to deal with on the point. Maybe let Kellen linger around a little bit more, but that boot prevents him from doing so.
We've slowly gone away from this Torm Sim setup entirely now. Sojourn Tracer ball for both sides with the Kiriko. Good damage. That's going to force a recall there on Zomba. Sugarfree wants to keep chasing, keep the Tracer out of the fight, but is this advancing the win condition of SSG? It's unclear. They lose CJ after the Kitsune Rush comes down, so no one really make use of the amped healing speed. And again, Sugarfree needs to make something happen. Yesterday, sound barrier for Space Station, but what are they fighting for?
Yeah, they beat for 3 there. Just Bliss, Kellen, and Sugarfree get the benefits of that sound barrier, and you do end up getting a kill off of it, but is it going to be enough for the point? You're going to have players coming back off a spawn. CJ's going to be here. Now Seeker's going to use the overclock.
Is Seeker going to be the one to bail them out again? Sugarfree, they're just overstayed, trying to get into the backline. On towards one of the Lucio, I think. And there it is, Zomba, flattened. And Space Station are back in control, but Reprisal is swift for Seeker. Wub going to throw that Disruptor shot down as Seeker drops into it after a pile drive.
Yeah, Sugarfree does get a pulse bomb kill on the Scuff, so that's kind of even with just all that aggression, that's kind of worth it. That is Pella just getting just pile drive just right on his head as Kellen goes up top. This time the minefield is good. It spreads out all over the point. Going to be very difficult for Avidity to even contest.
That Kitsune Rush for Scuffed is all well and good, but it doesn't do anything to get him onto the point. And finally, Sugarfree will be able to deal with Wub. A pretty hectic map, honestly. The Zomba switch up here for Seeker to get back into the fight quickly would also be a bit of a nuisance here for Pella, who was trying to contest. I enjoyed that Suravasa, but Space Station Gaming again, just head and shoulders above.
Yeah, just all out aggression from both teams. I mean, these games are so fast and hectic, and that's kind of what you get with these ball comps, right? Ball can either just get back into the fight extremely fast, or he can just like linger. Like, I mean, for Kellen there, it felt like he like rarely ever died. Like he was always just kind of like lingering around the point, and these fights just kind of chain into one another, and they just keep going and going, and that's when you end up, in a spot towards the end, right? Tracer Sojourn with these tanks, and then the mobility of the supports, and it feels like you get 100 fights in a map.
Absolutely. And I think something that probably amplifies that sensation is just how hard it is to shift the ball away, especially when we move to the Tracer comps, right? We started with the Torb and the Symmetra with the ball comps, which for me is, there's just so much wrong with that. In terms of what the implied synergy is supposed to be, right? It's such a dive comp. I can see how the Torb obviously is acceptable to deal with ball. Sim is sticking out like a sore thumb in those comps. So eventually we go back to the Sojourns, someone who can really capitalize on a good Wrecking Ball pile driver. The Tracer comes in. In fact, they came in first. In fairness, the Zomba just opts out of playing the Sim Torb. They just don't want a bar of it. But you end up fighting Space Station in a part of the game that they're strong in.
A lot of times yesterday we saw pile drivers into railgun shots. That seemed to be a winning combination for a lot of teams. And you see just kind of like the damage output. I mean, the stats are fairly similar across the board, right? It's not like Avidity got blown out in this. SSG, though, just comes out on top yet again. Close game, so between these two teams.
Yeah, look, I think like Lijiang Tower was close and then it wasn't, or rather other way around, right?
Yeah.
We've seen Avidity in moments where they can hang, but they've not been able to sustain that level of play for long enough to generally threaten like a map win situation here. It's around here and there, which I think is a great sign. For them, like, I feel like half of the plan here is to fight hard this season so they can fight in the next stage and not have to, you know, like flip a coin through promotion and relegation. They want to stay here. They want to be in the mix and they want to prove that they belong. I'm quite happy with what I'm seeing from them so far, especially from some of their previous games.
These teams, though, like even the ones that are kind of, you know, hovering towards the mid or the bottom of NA, I feel like when they go into relegation, they're going to be so much better, you know, than a bunch of the teams that come out just off of like playing against these top teams often, right? I know it may only be, you know, once during the season, don't exactly know who's scrimming who, but just being able to play these games in like an organized manner, I feel like it's going to give them all like a little bit of a leg up against the competition coming in.
Absolutely. Yeah, it also means like next time they get into like a Swiss tournament or something like that, they're just going to be so used to playing under match conditions that they're going to be comfortable, they're going to be loose, and they're going to be able to play their way. They've still got some more time left in this series. Esperanca are going to be the map choice here now for Avidity again. It will be the last opportunity to select a map. And this is obviously, you know, the kind of map where we can see a lot of those different sort of comps, the dive as well. Like, did you get much hazard yesterday in NA?
Dude, not a ton. Really, he's kind of, I mean, he was all the rage last week, and then this week it's like he doesn't even exist. We saw a little bit of it. I think like maybe, you know, one game. I know 2 games of NA yesterday we saw some hazard, but really a lot of ball, a lot of Maga style comps.
We have a substitution here for Avidity. It's Pella coming out, and Twirls, who we saw, I think, all the time last week, will be coming in. So that definitely makes me think that we're heading for a bit of a change of tank. And yeah, I mean, I'd love to hear the discussion about like why people have moved away from that hazard, and it could be, you know, because of maybe some of these like tall comps are annoying for him to deal with. Maybe teams are just looking for an edge that can sort of beat hazard comps in general, and they don't have to play the mirror.
And I wonder if you're Avidity, what do you to go with like a ban, right? It's your last opportunity here. Do you try and ban like maybe it's like a Ramatra type of thing, right? It seemed like when you ran the Maga, it seemed to be Ramatra on the other side for Kellen. So maybe you feel like you can kind of force him onto a Maga or something a little bit more dive oriented. We do see some teams play D.Va here on Esperanca. D.Va can be quite impactful on this map, especially with the high ground and the Space Matrix. So
more of it in like TVMT, right? Loves to play like that over in Europe. So definitely seems to be like a matter of preference. I do think here, like, we have Maga already been banned, right? That was the ban on Suravasa, so he'd be available either way. You wouldn't be able to turn that off. Ana ban here, I think, makes a lot of sense, and the Torb ban here for SSG. I wonder.
Finally, little Torb ban.
Really Lenny time?
Yeah, I mean, well, you're gonna see like some Tracer play here potentially, right? We just saw it on the last map where we saw both the Torb and the Sim kind of get traded out, right? And we see Sojourn with Tracer. So look to potentially see even more of that. SSG was using the Ana a little bit early on, right? That's when CJ was playing it. So that is gone. That also, you know, you don't have that like bio grenade if they want to play like some Maga stuff on the other side. So quite interesting here for Avidity. They've held in this series. It's not been a blowout. They've looked pretty good at times. Definitely could be a series where you're looking at it's like 1-1 at this point, right? But SSG, even when it's close, still come out on top.
Yeah, I mean, the way they clutched out Lijiang Tower by forcing the Ajax for me was just, very emblematic of the clutch gene that this team has. And, you know, it's there in abundance, folks. Sugar-Free, Seeker Bliss, CJ Kellen, all of them have been able to make some magic happen. And now on Esperanca, it's a matter of closing out the series for this SSG roster again. They want to be pretty clean. They dropped their first match, or rather, they dropped their second match to TL, of course, coming in, which was, you know, a really back and forth, a great game. They feel like they did get...
Yeah, that game was awesome.
Yeah, they feel like they did lose to the Danny book of notes. You know what I mean? The draft strategy of that team. So that's something they want to shore up here. The Torb ban for me is what unlocks the Genji.
It's also going to be a little bit of like a trial here.
Are we doing this?
You know, using this ban is this is going to be a Roadhog setup. Yeah. Well, I mean, look, they banned the Ana, right? So you're like, oh, maybe you do it to get some Malga, but no, you actually do it to get your Roadhog set up. We even have a sub for the Roadhog going on through.
Yeah, it's definitely. Excuse me. It's definitely a little surprising. We see the Ana ban, right? So that could to the trained eye imply a Roadhog pick, but it is so rare. Very uncommon. Does this even bother SSG?
Rare would be, I guess, like an understatement. I think this is like
unless you're Crocs, then yeah.
Once a stage, maybe we see a little bit of Roadhog action, and here it is in NA. I mean, I guess it does the bother the hazard a little bit, but I mean, it is an oddball type of pick though.
Okay, well, I'm here for it. I want to see how it plays out. We would see it more in EU if Day Impero had actually qualified, I think. But Avidity here. It was a pick-off really on Seeker, if I'm not mistaken, from Zomba that opened things up for them now. So some middling progress, and now they're forced to give up a bit of ground. Scuffed. Oh, yeah, that's a quick swift step away. A lot of burst damage leveraged at that Kiriko by the hazard. Suzu already used. It's time to go, surely. Here's a spike guard, but very, very low. Quick stun there, but geez, it's so easy. Helen sets the dive up, but Sugar Free just breathes on them and they collapse.
It's the hook that actually gets broken up there by the little street sign, so not able to get the hook, and that's going to be the Roadhog experiment over. So just like that, I think it's a surprise factor at the start, right? Catch them off guard a little bit. Yeah, they're not exactly prepared, but you do put yourself pretty far behind though in terms of ultimate charge here, making all these changes.
Yeah, you can tell Matt pretty unconvinced, folks. Switch back to all. This is what we saw. Twirls on. Twirls was on the hazard. Right, we did see a lot of this, but Avidity have just allowed this to happen. They've allowed this checkpoint to be taken. Didn't have a prior opportunity to really fight.
They also dropped their rush there. So they give up the point and they drop their rush. Now they're going to be hightailing it out here with the bot, but this could be an opportunity for Kellen to get a big downpour here.
I mean, yeah, maybe the spike guard gives him a chance to see around the corner, look for the opportunity. Not going to go for it yet. Probably doesn't feel like he needs to. Spacestation got a massive lead off that. One fight. Legitimately, like one push gets him a long way. All right. Well, there was that downpour. Didn't really seem to catch on.
Though, from Avidity, right? You end up using the Kitsune Rush in the previous fight, and you end up giving up the checkpoint. And then here, you end up losing a player right away and then dropping your sound barrier. And the bot's going to be about mid-map. So now you're going to be walking in double support on the other side. Overclock as well.
It just means it's impossible to take this checkpoint right now for Avidity.
Right, which is what you were trying to do here. You were trying to like at least match checkpoint, but it's going to be almost, it's going to be very difficult to do so now.
Okay, there's that disrupt the shot here as Kellen does take a hit from Wub, who's now going to pop the overclock. How's his sight line? Could be better. Suzu, I think, preemptively used there to try and save one from the blade, but Sugar Free wouldn't be denied. Dropping down to the low ground, he gets a Suzu of his own, and we are off to the races. CJ still has a Kitsune Rush, so Space Station have really rationed out their 4 ultimates into 2 separate halves.
Yeah, you get maybe 12 meters or so there for Avidity, so you don't even really get much off of, investing those support ultimates. And this is actually going to be even more progress here for SSG. You have this open straightaway to end up using your Kitsune Rush, so they're set up and share pretty good again. Another, 20, 30 meters out of this.
Let's see, you can push it up. 72 and counting. Space Station still with that Kitsune Rush to their name. Seeker obviously does clear the field with that ultimate. Keeping one alive is important. Kellen's not able to dive them. Those health bars on the Space Station were looking scary, but CJ goes absolutely tropical with the kunai. 12's and NY both down to his hand. A late, though, Kitsune Rush here for Scuffed. Gives Avidity some breathing room, a chance to push back.
Is it enough, though, to actually get control of the bot and get meaningful space? Because you have this close spawn that's going to come in for SSG, right? So looks like you're going to be able to get to this underpass, but make sure it's going to be SSG coming up from above. You see actually Kellen just jump straight across as they're going to be right here ready to fight.
Played again. Zomba going for it. Force a deflect for much for it. There's that Suzu. He's got nothing to swing at. Devastating here for Avidity. You'd hope to turn that into an advantage. Wipe goes down to the spike. Oh my goodness, good downpour. Do they see the Genji? Kellen maybe doesn't realize or care that Zomba was around the corner, rooted in place. Pretty effective as far as those hazard ults though.
I mean, it's really impactful, right? Because now this bot just still kind of stuck here. And you're almost like in desperation time if you're Avidity, right? You've fallen so far behind, the bot going deeper into your territory. You're basically just getting these fights here at this choke, but you don't want to really invest into them, right? They're kind of like bad fights to invest into, but it feels like soon you're going to have to.
Yeah, 429. So we are getting now into one of the most hectic parts of the game. And Avidity still haven't managed to take that checkpoint. Been waylaid, they've been forced also to give up some ultimates a little bit cheaply. We're in Lijiang Tower, especially the rounds they did well. Their ultimate economy was very, very good. Especially Nenwai, like it was very hard to get them to part with the sound barrier without a very good reason. Here it's been a little bit looser.
SSG, though, I feel like playing this really well, right? They're kind of taking all of these fights on their own terms. Oh, nice sound barrier there by Nenwai. Barely stays up as it's going to be Sugar Free just using this blade trying to cut him down.
Yeah, I feel like one more slash might have done it. Nicely done by Nenwai. Quick reactions, but Sugar Free spends most of that blade on just getting the Lucio out of the picture. No one was really threatening Sugar Free anyway, so it wasn't like Avidity were going to be able to pivot off that sound barrier into a successful fight. It was purely defensive, and I'm sorry, I don't see a Kitsune rush there either. What happened to Avidity?
Yeah, I mean, now you're going to make a switch over to the Juno here, but SSG going to have a huge advantage, right? Overclock, if it gets a little bit dicey, you also have this orbital ray to use. They're going to be marching this bot straight towards the Avidity spawn, man. Wub going to have this overclock coming off the spawn. It might not even matter, though.
I think that Avidity are good for 2 maps, but the third, I just feel like it's all falling apart. They are all over the place. That last fight, they can't use those 2 support ultimates as a springboard to find success. And here comes Space Station, breathing down their necks, knocking on their door, putting flyers underneath it.
Kelvin's like set up by the spawn door in like a little crevice. I wonder if he's going to try and like downpour from behind to the side. No, he actually kind of jumps out of there. I think they saw him.
Sugar Free just waits here. Kellen soaks up so much of this attention, this damage, and the downpour catches Zomba out. Twirls also was unable to move. How many players caught in that? A lot of them. We have a full map completion on Esperanca now. Space Station blow Avidity out after they put up a decent fight for the first 2 maps.
That was nasty work there by SSG. I mean, it felt like every fight going into it, they had a distinct advantage. Just played really well in terms of the ultimate economy game. Avidity just kind of, the wheels kind of fell off a little bit towards the end there. They looked good early on in the series, but as we went deeper and deeper, it was just so good for SSG.
I just love the turn of phrase. The wheels fell off. Yeah, that's how it felt like. But up until then, they were in this race, right? It was just like a lot of moments where they couldn't quite close it out. They couldn't sustain the level of play whenever they did have the advantage. But quite frankly, the score does not suggest how close this was, especially on the first 2 maps. I feel like there were a lot of opportunities for Avidity to take this one home. It was just like they couldn't quite get it over the finish line.
But I also feel like that's the difference between these like level up teams, right? Like we just saw in the last series with Amplify, right? Like they play close, and then in like those clutch moments, it's just like the top teams of the region know how to take those fights and don't really make mistakes. Where SSG, they feel pretty confident, like, hey, as long as we play our game, like we're gonna force these teams like Avidity and whatnot into mistakes, which end up happening.
How did you guys feel about those Torp and Sim shenanigans? Because they did like switch off of that later in the series. We're going back to more comfortable stuff like Tracer Sojourn, but overall, can they hang with them Torps and the Sims of the world?
It's fine. I think like my understanding of like where the comp is strongest is probably still developing, as Many's is, and also like I think a lot of like coaching staffs and teams are also really figuring out I think where they feel strongest with it. I think like playing with a Wrecking Ball is pretty interesting because a lot of the things that make Symmetra strong, she needs time. And these fights tend to be over quicker sometimes, especially if Wrecking Ball can set things up quite nicely. you have to play differently in so many of these roles. I think like the sim doesn't get any shielding, so like the way you play frontline is like vastly different, and the Torb doesn't actually have the innate capacity to shut down flankers because there aren't any. So you really want to like use that overload more aggressively instead of defensively. Bunch of stuff like that. I think it's still going to come out in the wash here, but I'm happy to see this region not get bogged down in just playing the same old stuff here, even though we return to the hazard comps. They do show us some really interesting gameplay. I do think like the bans can also force you out of that comfort as well. Some really nice downpours there. It's a shame for Twirls that the game's over, but so I don't know. I don't know if I'm convinced yet. I'd like to see a couple teams. I'd like to see like TL play that comp if they sort of think like that's worthwhile. They're obviously a team who's built on the idea of being flexible. So how quickly can they pick it up with an extra coaching staff over most teams?
Yeah, I mean, you have the extra people, right, to watch the film, go over it and, kind of come up with the best reason of why to play these comps in the situation to do so. And I think hero bans has an impact on this, right? There's a lot of comps that kind of get thrown sideways in terms of the bans that come through. Like, Wrecking Ball comps kind of just, they do their own thing, right? You can kind of play them, slot them in with just about anybody, and it sorts itself out.
I do feel like SSG is one of those teams, though, where the calls are not necessarily coming from that coaching bench. I think a lot of that has to be player-led. They have so much experienced players as well. They know what they're comfortable in. They make the switches accordingly. That's just my best guess, of course. I could be completely doing Untra a disservice here.
Oh, we'd hate that to happen too. We
would hate that for Unter.
Short-sold. Player of the match here, Kellen, very well deserved, I think. And just like he was such a sought-after player. I think like it was, as much as we'd love to give Max, guff a little bit. He did a great job locking Kellen down for this team, and really is the glue that holds them together.
He's sick on all the tanks, right? There's not really a tank in the pool that you think he's like pretty poor at. And I think here on Suravasa, like his ball was such an annoyance for Avidity to deal with, where even though you're kind of seeing a ball on the other side for Pella, it's not as impactful as what we see from Kellen. I mean, time and time again, just being a nuisance to this backline, scuffed and then why there really was nothing they could do.
Yeah, it is the flexibility of those individuals that it's just gonna make it so hard to go up against SSG, whether it be map bans or picks or the hero bans. They are happy to flex their muscles.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't seem to impact them at all. And I've just got word that we actually do have our player of the match joining us for a quick chat. So welcome to the show, Kellen. Congratulations on the victory. That was a lot of fun to watch. Hi, how are you doing?
Thank you. Hello.
Love the kitchen in the background. Looks very neat. I'm about that. Let's talk about this match we just got to watch, Kellen. We see you guys flexing to a lot of different compositions. Is there anything that you prefer? Like, we know you can play every tank hero. Is there a specific style or a specific hero that you like the best?
I like Winston Overboard. I like play main tank play.
Yep. Kellen, we've seen you in NA for a couple of years now. It's awesome to have you back again. What was it that made you decide you wanted to join Spacestation and stay in NA?
I like mix roster, so I want to stay NA.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
working English is so good.
Huh, that's awesome. You were great here today. Kellen, what do you think makes like Torb and Sim really strong that we see from a lot of teams now?
I heard in Korea rank player start Turbo Sim, and so many teams start Turbo Sim, and now meta maybe.
Yeah.
They are so strong.
How do you feel? Yeah, I mean, it looks strong for some teams and others are still trying to figure it out. It's very interesting to see the meta and how it's been evolving in just 2 weeks. Now, looking ahead for your upcoming matches, how do you feel you and your team are stacking up against your opponents coming up? I think your next one should be Avidity, and then you have Rad still on the horizon, and of course, a timeless match at the end of the season too. Do you feel confident against all of them?
Yes, I'm confident, and if we working hard, we can easily win.
Right on. I mean, it's been very dominant from you guys today. We hope to see more of that. Kellen, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us, and good luck in your next game.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kellen.
Like,
Great to hear from Kellen. Just such a talented and humble player. Been around forever, and it's great to see him and the team succeed. And yeah, very clean background. Kitchen is neat. Whoever is taking care of
where's
that.
that?
Love
Yeah.
to see that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is that a team house? That gave me team house vibes.
No, so Kellen, no team house for SSG. They will have all their players.